Prince Andrew is demanding a trial by jury and has formally denied all the allegations against him as he gave a court in New York his official response to allegations of sexual assault.
For years, the British royal family has been surrounded by secrets. But now, a former royal protection officer is revealing what really went on behind palace doors. Paul Page, who once worked closely with Prince Andrew, has come forward with shocking claims that could change everything. From hidden scandals to secret dealings, his revelations are making headlines. And it's not just about Prince Andrew alone. Queen Camilla is also involved in ways no one expected. What did he witness during his time in the palace, and how deep do these secrets go? Join us as we uncover Page's shocking revelation: the secrets behind the palace walls. For decades, Prince Andrew and Queen Camilla have appeared in public with smiles, waving to crowds, and attending royal events. They've always seemed outgoing, showing a polished image to the world. But behind the palace walls, things were very different. And now Paul Page, a former royal cop, has exposed secrets that change everything we thought we knew. During his time working as a royal protection officer, Page witnessed things that shocked him. He saw the real personalities behind the royal titles, the tension, the hidden conflicts, and the behavior that never made it to the cameras. Prince Andrew, although known for his controversies, has a side the public never saw. And Queen Camilla, who's often presented as a supportive royal, had her own secrets too. These revelations raise serious questions about what really went on inside the palace. Were they truly the people they appeared to be? Keep watching to find out more. Buckingham Palace has always been seen as a place of dignity, power, and strict traditions. The royal family is known for keeping their private lives hidden, showing only what they want the world to see. But sometimes, people who have worked closely with them reveal secrets that change how the public views them. One of those people is Paul Page, a former royal protection officer who spent 6 years guarding the Queen and her family. Paul Page worked for the royal family as part of the Royal Protection Unit, the elite security team responsible for guarding the British royal family. And his job gave him access to places most people could never enter. For years, he worked closely with other officers to ensure the safety of the royal family. Yet he noticed things that did not sit right with him. However, Page's own life took a dark turn when he was caught running a fraudulent investment scheme. But despite his criminal past, his revelations about Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell gained attention because they align with what others have said about their controversial relationship. One of the most shocking things Page revealed was the way Ghislaine Maxwell moved in and out of Buckingham Palace. She was not just a guest, she had special privileges. Most visitors, no matter how important, had to go through strict security checks. But Maxwell did not seem to follow those rules. According to Page, she could come and go as she pleased, sometimes entering and exiting multiple times in a single day. Her level of access was not normal, even for someone with close ties to the royal family. Page specifically remembered one day when Maxwell entered the palace 4 times, from morning until evening. She walked in as if she lived there, and the security team noticed. They found it strange, but they knew better than to question it. If someone had that much freedom inside the palace, it usually meant they had a deep connection to a member of the royal family. And in this case, that member was Prince Andrew. For years, rumors had circulated about their close relationship, and Page's testimony only added fuel to the fire. Many believed that Andrew and Maxwell were more than just friends, and her frequent visits raised even more questions. Maxwell's access to the palace was not the only strange thing Page noticed. He also witnessed something unexpected. He noticed that Prince Andrew had a massive collection of teddy bears. Most people expect a grown man, especially a royal, to have sophisticated tastes, but Andrew had a different obsession. Page revealed that the prince had up to 60 stuffed animals, and they were all carefully arranged on his bed. The palace staff had to place them in a specific order, following a laminated diagram that showed exactly where each bear should go. This might have been harmless if it were just a personal preference, but the way Andrew reacted when the bears were moved was alarming. If a maid placed them in the wrong position, he would become furious, shouting at the staff and verbally abusing them. His temper over something as small as stuffed animals shocked those who worked around him. Page and his colleagues started seeing Andrew in a different way. In public, he appeared confident and composed, but behind closed doors, he seemed unpredictable and demanding. However, before Page made these revelations about Andrew and Maxwell, he had a dark secret of his own. While working at the palace, he was also running a fraudulent investment scheme. He convinced many people, including friends, colleagues, and even family members, to hand over their savings, promising them huge returns. He told them they were investing in real estate, but in reality, he was using their money to fund his gambling addiction. The scheme lasted for 3 years, and by the time it fell apart, he had stolen over £3 million. When he was caught, his case became one of the biggest financial scandals connected to Buckingham Palace's security team. At his trial, the judge called him breathtakingly dishonest and said his actions were ruthless. Many of his victims were people he had worked with at the palace and people who trusted him. Some lost their entire life savings, while others struggled for years to recover. His crime did not just affect individuals. It also raised serious concerns about the security system at Buckingham Palace. If a palace officer could commit such a massive fraud, what else was happening behind the scenes? However, Page's arrest opened the door to even more disturbing revelations. His case was not just about one man's deception. It exposed deeper issues within the Royal Protection Unit. Reports surfaced about officers drinking on duty, dealing steroids, and even threatening each other over money disputes. The people assigned to protect the most important figures in the country were engaged in illegal activities. This raised serious questions about how the royal security team was managed and whether there were other cases of corruption that had gone unnoticed. Page's fraud was just one example, but it was enough to shake public confidence in the system. If someone like him could get away with criminal behavior for so long, what else was being hidden? His story made people question whether Buckingham Palace was as secure as it seemed. But despite his own past, Page's claims about Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell could not be ignored. His descriptions matched other reports, and his statements about Maxwell's unusual access to the palace aligned with what was already known about her relationship with Andrew. Furthermore, Maxwell was later convicted of sex trafficking, working closely with Jeffrey Epstein to exploit young girls, including a girl named Virginia Giuffre.
I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. Like, his sweat was like, it was raining basically everywhere, and I was just like, what?
And Prince Andrew's connection to both of them has remained a controversial topic. Stay tuned as we delve more into this interesting story. Prince Andrew and the scandal that changed everything. As people wondered how Prince Andrew became entangled in the web of this controversy, it became clear that the answer lay in his past associations. To understand how he got involved, we have to go back to the late 1990s, when he first met Jeffrey Epstein through Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew first met Jeffrey Epstein in the late 1990s through Ghislaine Maxwell. She was a well-connected British socialite, and her father, Robert Maxwell, was a powerful media mogul. Through Maxwell, Prince Andrew became part of Epstein's circle, which included wealthy businessmen, politicians, and celebrities. Over the years, he spent time with Epstein at his various homes. He visited Epstein's mansion in New York, his private island in the Caribbean, and his estate in Palm Beach, Florida. He also flew on Epstein's private jet, which many referred to as the Lolita Express due to the disturbing allegations tied to it. Although he later stated that he never saw anything illegal happening.
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
His repeated presence at these locations raised a lot of questions. One of the most controversial moments came in 2000, when Maxwell brought Epstein as her guest to a party at Windsor Castle. The event was held to celebrate Andrew's 40th birthday, Princess Anne's 50th, and Princess Margaret's 70th. Epstein's presence at such a private royal gathering showed just how close he was to the prince. However, the key piece of evidence that kept the controversy alive was a photograph taken in 2001. The image showed him with his arm around Virginia Giuffre, who was 17 at the time, with Ghislaine Maxwell smiling in the background. Giuffre later stated that this was the night she was introduced to the prince and was later forced into a situation with him. Andrew, however, had denied that the photo was real. In an interview in 2019, he expressed that he had no memory of taking the picture and suggested it might have been doctored. He also pointed out that he was not dressed the way he usually would be in London and questioned whether the setting even matched Maxwell's house. But despite his doubts, experts have said there is no clear evidence that the photo was altered. Giuffre, on the other hand, had insisted it was real and had shared details about that night, claiming that she and Andrew had gone to a nightclub called Tramp before returning to Maxwell's home. In 2019, as pressure mounted, Prince Andrew decided to sit down for an interview to tell his side of the story.
I've never really felt the need to go and party, and certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying. Absolutely not.
The interview was meant to clear his name, but it ended up making things worse. During the conversation, he denied ever meeting Giuffre and dismissed her claims. When asked about the night she said they were together, he stated that it was impossible because he was taking his daughter, Princess Beatrice, to a birthday party at Pizza Express in Woking. Many people found this explanation unusual, as he made it sound like an event he would never forget, even though it happened nearly 20 years earlier. Also, another moment that raised questions was when he addressed Giuffre's claim that he had been sweating profusely while dancing with her. Andrew responded by stating that he had a medical condition at the time that prevented him from sweating. He explained that it was caused by an overdose of adrenaline during his time in the Falklands War. However, many found this explanation strange and difficult to believe. The interview was widely criticized, and instead of clearing his name, it made him look even more suspicious. The backlash was so severe that just days later, he announced he would be stepping back from his royal duties. Even after stepping away from public life, Prince Andrew's legal problems did not go away. In 2021, Virginia Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit against him in New York. She accused him of sexually assaulting her when she was 17 and claimed she was forced into the situation because of Epstein and Maxwell's influence. Andrew's lawyers tried to get the case dismissed, arguing that Giuffre had signed a settlement with Epstein in 2009 that prevented her from suing anyone connected to him. However, the judge ruled that the case could go forward. This meant Andrew would either have to fight the case in court or settle out of court. As the lawsuit progressed, Andrew faced even more consequences. In early 2022, the Queen stripped him of his military titles and royal patronages. He was no longer allowed to use the title His Royal Highness in any official capacity. This was a significant blow, as it symbolized how far he had fallen within the royal family. However, before the case could go to trial, Andrew and Giuffre reached a financial settlement in February 2022. Although the exact amount was not disclosed, reports suggested he paid millions to resolve the lawsuit. As part of the agreement, he did not admit any wrongdoing, but he did express regret over his association with Epstein and acknowledged Giuffre's suffering. Many saw this as an attempt to avoid further embarrassment, especially since a public trial could have revealed even more damaging details. However, the settlement did not erase the controversy, and his reputation remained damaged. But despite this, his name continues to be linked to Epstein and Maxwell. and many believe he has never fully addressed the allegations against him. But what made all this worse was Paul Page's revelations. This added yet another layer to the story. His description of Maxwell's special access to Buckingham Palace, combined with the long-standing rumors about Andrew's ties to Epstein, painted a disturbing picture. While Page himself had a criminal past, his claims could not be dismissed so easily because they matched what other sources had said. His testimony made people wonder how much the royal family truly knew about Andrew's activities and whether they had tried to protect him from the consequences. Here's the most intriguing part. A legacy of controversy. Prince Andrew's life has been filled with scandals, but few have drawn as much attention as the way he has treated people around him. His attitude toward reporters, servants, and even those closest to him has long been a subject of criticism. While much has been said about his dealings in business, finances, and friendships with controversial figures, his behavior toward everyday people, whether they are journalists, household staff, or acquaintances, has painted a troubling picture. During his 1984 visit to Southern California, Andrew's actions shocked both British and American journalists. While on tour, he deliberately squirted paint on reporters and photographers who were simply doing their jobs. This was not just an act of mischief, it damaged expensive camera equipment and clothing, leading the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner to send a $1,200 bill to the British consulate, demanding compensation. Instead of expressing any regret, Andrew reportedly told Los Angeles County Supervisor Kenneth Hahn that he enjoyed that. This incident demonstrated an alarming disregard for professional journalists and their work. This attitude of his resurfaced repeatedly in different forms throughout his life. Beyond the media, Andrew's treatment of palace staff has been described as aggressive and demeaning. Many who have worked in royal service have spoken about his brusque manner and frequent outbursts. A senior footman once told a reporter that when waking the prince in the morning, the typical response was not a polite greeting but an angry expletive. While other members of the royal family were known for being courteous, Andrew's behavior was starkly different. He was not just dismissive, he was often openly hostile. Aside from Paul Page, who spoke about his attitude, his former maid, Charlotte Briggs, recounted similar experiences. She spoke about how during her time working for him, she was once bitten by his Norfolk Terrier. Instead of expressing concern, Andrew simply laughed. On another occasion, he allegedly reduced her to tears for not properly closing the curtains in his office. His attitude stood in stark contrast to his brothers, Charles and Edward, and his father, Prince Philip, who were described as far more respectful toward staff. Even outside the royal house, Prince Andrew's interactions with people often left them feeling uneasy. One person who experienced this firsthand was the massage therapist Emma Gruenbaum. She recalled how he repeatedly made inappropriate comments during their sessions. According to her, he constantly brought up topics related to sex and asked personal questions that went beyond professional boundaries. According to her, he continued booking sessions for about 2 months, but when he realized she wasn't going to engage with his behavior, he eventually lost interest and stopped scheduling appointments. But this was just one part of a much larger pattern of troubling behavior. Andrew's financial habits also raised many concerns about his character. Despite receiving an annual allowance from the Queen, he often spent more than he could afford. In 2004 alone, he spent £325,000 on flights, and his trade missions cost another £75,000. Later reports revealed that in 2008, he received £436,000 to cover expenses related to his public role. Yet even with these substantial amounts, he still found himself struggling with money. One of the biggest financial scandals linked to Andrew involved the purchase of a luxury ski chalet in Verbier, Switzerland. He and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, bought the property for £13 million, but they soon ran into legal trouble over the mortgage. they had secured a loan of £13.25 million, expecting to pay £5 million in cash installments. But the debt quickly grew. Over time, with interest added, they owed a total of £6.8 million. At one point, rumors spread that the Queen might step in to help clear the debt, but Buckingham Palace made it clear that she would not be involved. Eventually, the property was put up for sale to settle the outstanding payments. However, in June 2022, Swiss newspaper Le Temps reported that the chalet had been frozen due to an unpaid debt of $1.6 million that Andrew owed to unnamed individuals. However, while his personal financial struggles were troubling enough, his relationships with wealthy and powerful figures made matters worse. Reports surfaced that financier David Rowland, a close associate of Andrew, had been secretly helping him pay off his debts. In 2017, Andrew borrowed £250,000 from Banque Haviland, adding to an existing loan of £1.25 million, which had already been extended multiple times since 2015. Within weeks of taking this new loan, £1.5 million was transferred from a Rowland-controlled account to pay off Andrew's debts. Documents later showed that, despite concerns about his ability to repay, Andrew was given these loans because of his royal status and influential connections. However, this only reinforced the belief that he had been using his position for personal financial gain. In November 2020, a deeper layer of his financial dealings was exposed. After reviewing emails, internal documents, and regulatory filings, Bloomberg Businessweek reported that Andrew had been using his royal status and role as a trade envoy to help David Rowland and his private bank, Banque Haviland, secure deals with clients worldwide. The Rowland family was known to be among Andrew's investment advisors, and he had attended the official opening of their bank in July 2009. Allegations later surfaced that Banque Haviland had sought to serve dictators and kleptocrats, raising even more questions about Andrew's involvement with the bank. While Andrew's exact role in these dealings remained unclear, his close ties to the Rowlands and his willingness to use his influence for their benefit only added to the growing concerns about his financial conduct. Then there was the case involving businessman Selman Turk, who had won the People's Choice Award at Andrew's pitch at Palace event. Not long after, Turk was accused of helping arrange a highly suspicious £750,000 payment from the wife of a jailed Turkish politician to Andrew. Reports also suggested that she believed the money would help her obtain a British passport. When lawyers began asking questions about the transaction, Andrew quickly returned the money, but the damage had already been done. The situation raised serious concerns about his involvement in financial dealings with individuals facing legal troubles. However, just when it seemed like the scandals couldn't get any worse, another shocking revelation surfaced in December 2024. Reports linked Andrew to businessman Chris Yang, who allegedly had connections to the Chinese Communist Party. Yang had been invited to events at royal residences and was even given permission by Andrew's office to represent him in China when speaking to investors. However, in 2023, the UK government barred Yang from entering the country after accusations surfaced that he had been secretly working on behalf of the Chinese government. Once these concerns were raised, Andrew cut ties with Yang, but the revelation only added to the long list of questionable relationships that had damaged his reputation. Through all these controversies, Andrew repeatedly found himself at the center of scandals. The way he treated those around him, including journalists, palace staff, and business associates, only made things worse. Many described him as someone who believed he was above accountability. Whether it was his dismissive attitude toward reporters, his poor treatment of staff, his reckless financial decisions, or his close ties with controversial figures, every incident reinforced the idea that he lived by his own set of rules. As the royal family tried to distance themselves from him, more problems kept emerging. He lost his official royal duties, faced ongoing financial difficulties, and became known for friendships that raised serious ethical and legal questions. At a time when the monarchy was working to modernize its image and restore public trust, Andrew became a glaring example of the dangers of unchecked privilege. The real question now is whether he will ever face real consequences for his actions, or if his royal status will continue to protect him from accountability. So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Prince Andrew will ever face real consequences for his actions, or will his royal status continue to protect him? Drop it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Also, click the next video shown on your screen, and you will enjoy it.